Right, figured I'd start this video as honestly and openly as possible. Look, you ain't gonna find a Gears video like this. It's not a typical YouTube video. That's not what this channel is. If you're here for like hyped up reaction, and if you're here for like, you know, specific bullet points and a scripted style video of basically like a 10-minute punchy piece of all about Gears 5 and all of that stuff. Look, that ain't it, chief. It's super hot here. I've literally just got out of bed. Like, I can't sleep, bro. And I figured, look, like, it's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. I've been kind of, you've noticed really on the channel, I've been kind of holding off doing videos and just haven't really been motivated, I guess, to make a video, because I've been pretty much feeling like kind of in this position. Let me just lie back and chill here with you boys. Pretty much just in a position where it's kind of like my opinion on the game somewhat matters to a few people, which is cool, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really irrelevant, even in the terms of the YouTube landscape. Like, I don't get a ton of views on Gears, so I want to think about my opinion and I want to present a video. Like, bro, I've got scripts, I've got things written down. And what I'm actually going to end up doing is like this really rough video that I'm going to release, because that's me. That is the video. This is the channel. Like, that's the way the channel started. That is the way it carries on. And it's kind of like, yeah, you don't want to put too much weight on your own opinion. Like, it's just an opinion, mate, at the end of the day. So what I'm about to say about Gears 5 is just my opinion. And it changes as well, because that's the thing about so I keep just literally put my contact lenses in, so I'm blinking like a motherfucker. That's the thing about being genuine. Number one, if you say you're genuine, people think, A, he ain't genuine, because if you were genuine, you wouldn't have to say it. But sadly, on the internet, you do. And number two, when you are genuine, you don't filter yourself to the detriment of yourself often, which means pretty much opinions change. Things change. Like, I might film this video, post it, and then 10 minutes later think of a different opinion that, you know, didn't cross my mind, because I have like infinite thoughts on things. And when you don't filter yourself and you're just saying what's coming into your mind, that can be refreshing to people. It can be somewhat jarring, because they think, bro, just get to the point. But look, I'm just putting out content that I think someone might enjoy at the end of the day. So let's just begin with Gears 5. So I'll put my headphones in, because I might have to watch some videos. Got these bloody headphones absolutely boiling. Okay, so with Gears 5, there's going to be coughs, there's going to be food, there's going to be chills. Look, we're just chilling, okay? This ain't too deep. It's an opinion on Gears 5. You know, grab a seat, put some comments in the chat, throw some support, have a conversation. That's what this is all about, right? Oh, that's good. That's the first time I've drinking regular Coke in about a month. Okay. So, Gears 5. Where do we begin, boys? Where do we begin? The reason I'm doing this video, by the way, is because, let me just sit up a tiny bit so I'm not so bad on camera. The reason I'm doing this video is because it's important for me to finish what I started in some capacity. Like, I started with Gears, and it's now come to the point where the last operation has dropped, right? A few people have obviously asked for my opinion, and I haven't made any content in what feels like forever, but realistically is probably only about a week, but that's the longest I've gone, because I've been dealing with this inner turmoil of wanting to put your opinion out there so you feel involved in whatever it is, but also having like a self-awareness that your opinion isn't really that important, so it really doesn't matter. So why would I put something on my channel or put something out there that doesn't matter? So rather than overthinking the whole process and scripting some super review, this is what we're doing. So Gears 5 began, and when I got into Gears 5, it was a tech test. And just to premise this video, look, you've all got your own opinions. You all play the game in a different way. This is how I play the game. I am a massive Gears fan from 2006. Competed in 2006, whatever you want to call that word, when esports wasn't a thing. I've played it ever since. I've had chats with devs throughout the time of Gears, from Gears 3 onwards. We'll get into how it all came to end, but we've been involved with Gears. It's not really been a staple of my channel until recently, but I am a passionate fan. I have strong beliefs, and often I see people masquerading as passionate fans, and that irks me. What you'll realize is there's a lot of people will tell you, or I'm speaking from myself here, that hey, you were wrong on this thing's actually good, or hey, you were wrong on this thing that you said is bad is good, or this thing that you said is good is bad. And they'll come at you with a variety of opinions, comments, and they'll try to discredit you by saying, I'm a massive fan, you're wrong because the game's great. And you'll actually realize that pretty much most of the time you speak to these people or read about them, they don't play the game. They didn't play the game in the past. They don't play the game now. They'll be on your video, on your thread, on your forum, whatever it may be, telling you the reason you're wrong about X, Y, and Z is because of this, and actually the game's great. You just have to ask them the question, hey bro, if the game's that great, why ain't you playing it? And that's what it comes down to a lot. Hey bro, if it's that good, why aren't you out there promoting it, playing it, streaming it, creating content, sharing it? What gives? Truth is, mate, they just like to argue. They get rubbed up the wrong way with someone that's got a strong opinion. And the reality is they don't like the game nearly as much as they think they do. They're just serial game hoppers. So, shall we, I think I'm just going to keep it full screen. I was going to show you my desktop, but it's really irrelevant. The game began, and I actually watched a tech test of the game. I watched a tech test, and it looked okay. My initial thoughts are up on the channel somewhere, and it was pretty much me going, it doesn't look that bad. It looks okay. It's kind of more PC based. And what I mean by PC based is like aiming, flick aiming, snap aiming, rifling people down. Like it looked more like PC based. Now it could have been that the footage that I was watching was of a PC player on the tech test. I could have got a, you know, what's the word, a misinterpreted view of what the game would be like. But it looked what I would describe as doughy, Disney, Saints Row-y. If you look at the new trailer of Saints Row, if you want to pull that up on your screen whilst you pause, come back. Once you've had a look of it, you'll understand that all of these new games, all of these things, they have this super smooth animation, this super smooth skin. Everything looks like, yes, this is a perfectly modeled character with billions of polygons and pixels, and there's a general lack of charm and style, and it just, everything kind of molds into the same. But I'd come from the end of Gears 4's lifespan. So to be clear, played 1, 2, 3. didn't play UE because I loved Gears 1 so much. I didn't feel the need to play a hand-me-down remake with no custom games, yada, yada, yada. Ended up joining back into Gears 4 when the game worked on PC. And due to that experience, the loot boxes were fixed at this point, so I didn't know about that. It had two tunings. I had competitive tuning with a small gib range, which I enjoyed, and then I also enjoyed the consistency of core. They both had their merits, their pros and cons, and I thought it was cool that there was two tunings. You could dip in and out depending on what kind of game you want, who you want to play with, etc, etc. Thought it was pretty good. We actually had so much fun on Gears 4, me and my old crew, that we thought, hey, is this what we've been missing the whole time? You know, have we been missing that little bit of Gears juice that used to be in our blood and in our lives from, you know, 2006 to probably mid 2010, maybe 2011 at a push for some of us. But yeah, we were like, yo, this is actually good and we could make this a thing. Meaning just not a YouTube channel. I didn't have a YouTube channel for Gears or anything like that. It was just like me and the boys could hop on maybe like once or twice a week, play some Gears for a few hours in Discord like old times, and it was good fun. So then obviously I watched the tech test, I got excited for Gears 5 and I thought, yeah, I had some doubts, some grievances, but for the most part it looked okay, and with Gears 4 being pretty decent at the end, I thought, this is alright. As long as if I can hop on, shotgun a few people, play some classic Gearsy style gameplay, that's enough for me. I wasn't looking for Gears to be like the top game, my only game, you know. So again, this is why my review, it's all subjective because it just depends of what you go in expecting. So I was expecting or hoping that I would get, number one, the map editor. It told us there would be a map editor. Number two, obviously all the characters, all the skins, all the good shit, all like the maps, Fuel Depot, all this stuff that I played on. Obviously a ton of new maps, better campaign because Gears 4 campaign was tragic. But as long as if we could hop on, play some King of the Hill, play some Execution, you know, it would be all right. So the game launched, and that's just not what we got, is it? It's not what we got at all. So it took a couple weeks for me to actually produce my first video on my channel, because obviously I like to play the game, right? I don't think you can review a product without putting a ton of time into it, which is a whole other story because no other reviewer does that shit, but that doesn't seem to matter. So we play it for a couple of weeks, and me and my friends kind of look at each other and we're like, okay, the initial buzz of like, hey, we're playing Gears, it's online, and we haven't done this in forever. Once that had worn off after about a few days, we were like, okay, let's have a look at the actual game itself. It was a mess. The developers will admit that themselves. The launch of the game was a hot mess. So for those that aren't maybe familiar with what exactly I'm talking about, I actually did a video called Gears of War 5 is a Travesty. And the reason I made this video was because I felt a lot of grievance, not for myself, but more the people that had been putting up with this for such a long time. And I felt like nobody was being taken seriously. So I had a look around on YouTube, didn't really see any critique, didn't really see any videos of anything other than Game of the Year, positive, best game ever, shocked reactions, there's never a better game, this is it, this is the holy grail. And I was like, there's something missing here. There's something missing. There's something not been picked up on. So I made my video. It got 1,000 views. And I said, I hate the shop. I hate the way it's done. I hate the fact that when I go into the Discord, the community managers at the time, it was TC Octus and multiple other people, but it was mainly TC Octus in there. There was no EU server. So there was no EU server for 3-4 weeks. Certainly not consistently up for 2 months, really, if we're being brutally honest. So we were asking, hey, what's the deal? Why can no EU players even play this game that we've bought and we're trying to play, right? And they were all sat on Discord playing Gears 5 because you could see their status would update, playing ranked, yada yada, playing X, Y, and Z mode. You know how you can see when someone's playing a game. They were just actively ignoring us. So during the first couple months of the launch of like one of the, I would argue probably the most broken launch of any Gears game, because obviously you know, you need to understand that yes, they were trying to do their first live service game. It was, you know, the scale's different these days. They had 3 million people on Game Pass. Look, I understand all that, but the end result for me as a consumer was I couldn't play the game. So it was like the most broken launch ever, and they were completely ignoring us, and that really pissed me off. So I went back to playing Path of Exile. I'll show you if you're interested. So you can see here that I made this video about Gears, like, and then just went back to playing Path of Exile, and I was like, they don't care, I'm done with it, that's the game over. Okay, so we go back and we go ahead and we realize that there's no execution in the game. So you couldn't play execution. Now, I wasn't too fussed about this because personally, I think it's ran its course as a game mode. I preferred King of the Hill, 3-round King of the Hill, or, you know, the other game modes that they offered. I wasn't missing execution. However, I did create a subreddit called Gears 5 PC, and I did actually create a guide on how to host and join classic execution games, because I was like, if anybody wants to play some classic execution games, we can do that. That didn't really take off, no, because at this point nobody knew of me. No, like, it was just non-existent, right? Then the first like couple things happened, which I will say triggered me to look into Gears 5 deeper and what has ended up here. And it's culminated in me doing this really long review, which, you know, that's my style. So, a lot of big streamers got into the game. Dr. Disrespect, Shroud, all of these people. And you can see here, if we switch screen again, you will notice that my first video got about 15,000 views. It was sent to Dr. Disrespect, and it was to explain the fundamentals of how to move and how to play on a mouse, because he was struggling. And although he had many famous people in his chat trying to explain the game, when they haven't played Gears and they don't have like the breadth and depth of knowledge as somebody like me that's played from 2006, they couldn't convey what they wanted to convey in a meaningful way. This video did it, and people enjoyed the fact they were learning the fundamentals, they weren't rolling, and it explained things in a simplified way whilst also giving a bit of depth. So even from the get-go, I want to be clear, even though I had my grievances, I actually at this point, and please bear in mind, at this point I had 1 negative video and 2 videos to help grow the game. This is how I've always been, honest and open. If things are good, I will say they're good. If they're bad, I will say they're bad. So after a while, Dr. Disrespect and Shroud kind of got, shall we say, they got used to the fundamentals. They got used to the fact that it was kind of a point-and-click shoot game, which we'll get into. But they were basically done with the experience. They played a bit of online. They did a couple of clutches. And it was kind of like the shotgun was such a big gib range, wide angle, big cannon that all of the nuance that kept a player like me playing from 2006 and onwards had gone. And therefore, it was very difficult to argue with somebody like Shroud and Dr. Disrespect, although they were doing everything wrong and were evidently bad players. And I can say that. I'm not better than them at any other game, but yeah, I'm better than them at Gears. You can tell when someone's a new player. Even though they were struggling with all of the mechanics, just through sheer aim skill of a Shroud, you know, being able to put the crosshair on people and land certain shotgun people from a large distance, he kind of was like, yeah, I get it. You go in, you shotgun a couple of people, sometimes they shotgun you, sometimes you shotgun them. And yes, there's movement and dodging and trades, and he wasn't really doing it. He was just kind of aim, you know, I would call like aim star Gears of War, not really trying to do fights properly and just trying to out aim everybody. And they were kind of done with the game. They felt like they'd had their fill and they felt like they had the Gears experience. This in turn got a lot of people to say, no, don't quit the game. There's loads of depth to it, because they were thinking of previous Gears games. But to be honest, there wasn't much in this game and they were probably right to leave. Then we had our first kind of indication of, okay, what's happening? There was no execution in the game, right? And they've obviously had their vision to create this new game, which we can obviously speak on. And execution obviously wasn't in that frame of mind, because maybe like me, they thought, yeah, it's kind of a done game mode. It's a bit boring. You know, for all of the nostalgia when you close your eyes and you think of an execution clutch, these days it doesn't really happen, because what you're going to do in a 3v1, you're going to get crossed, you're going to go down. Nostalgia kind of carried that game mode. It actually wasn't a great game mode. I know people are going to flame me for that, but it really wasn't for Gears 5. Like, Gears 5 wasn't built around execution. That's my opinion. It wasn't even in the game. So then a big popular streamer, Nick Merckx, comes out and says, look, I'll play your game if there was execution. Now, I've had the developer tell me a couple of days ago that he actually put that in the game as kind of, I don't want to misquote him, obviously, this is all like hearsay, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of not like a fuck you, but kind of a challenge, like, oh, really? Like, that's the reason you're not playing the game? Okay, well, here it is. So now you're going to have to play it, or you're going to look like a bit of an idiot. So, pretty smart move. So, in a way, that's a pretty smart move. However, it does kind of go against, like, how can you just pander to such a, you know, how can you change your core philosophy so early on just because a popular person on Twitter is upset? It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Didn't like that. So we play a little bit longer. He plays a little bit and leaves, because obviously he's going to leave because he's not really a Gears fan. His job is to be a streamer and get views, and Gears ain't it. So I do my review. I play for a long period of time, putting up with all of the dodgy servers, putting up with the ranking system just been broken. You know, I remember developer streams saying, yep, there are certain accounts that are in silver that are stuck in silver. We had the flashbangs. Maybe we can put some gameplay up as we remind ourselves here. I'll flick screen. So what we have is a review coming up here. And this was a reminder of just kind of what has happened. So you can see here in 2011, I was even doing reviews and coverage, and 2012, trying to help people with timing weapons, doing podcasts. So I've obviously done this for a long period of time. So I would say that my opinion is somewhat valid, or at least it has some relevancy, at least to maybe people that play Gears. Okay, so the game began Gears 5, and it was just full of this flashbang after flashbang after flashbang. after melee lunge, after broken server, after big gib range, after skinny terminator, after super fast movement, after horrendous weapons like the Lancer GL. It was a horrendously put together experience for anyone that tried to take the game seriously. I do apologize for the flashbangs on screen, but I just want to remind you exactly what was going on in case some of you forgot what exactly King of the Hill was like, because it was frustrating as fuck to play. It actually made a lot of my friends never play the game again. They would go off with headaches, and to be honest, whoever came up with the idea of not the flashbang, because the flashbang, which we'll get into, is actually needed and still is needed to this day, but whoever came up with the effects and whoever checked that shit, like, what are you doing? We also got into the fact that there was no characters you could really unlock through playing the campaign. There was a lack of real good quality story for the longest time, but in this review I tried to be fair and honest and discuss the servers. I would discuss all kinds of stuff from content to controls, and generally it was not good. As you can see on screen, every single person was on the wrong ping. Now, I don't care what video game you make or what skill-based thing it is. You can see here that I was tagging people, nobody was responding. I was tagging Octus, literally nobody was responding, and we were having to deal with these incredibly expensive microtransactions that, you know, you used to be able to buy a whole campaign for $9. Yeah, I know times have changed and get with the program, but the game I enjoyed and the experience I wanted wasn't come and look at our shop, come and look at our iron, come and buy, you know, come and buy a singular mark for, like, come and buy an execution that you can only use with a certain gun, come and buy a spray. Now, I understand that video games have to make money, and I understand that the shop isn't the worst. I get that. There are worse shops. I'm just saying, when you buy a fully fledged game and it's got a ton of balance problems from the get-go, and it's got a ton of server issues where we can't even play, to then also have the shop on top with all of, like, the rage-inducing flashbangs, it was quite hard to stomach. Really quite hard to stomach. And to be honest, it's a good job I'm doing this whilst really, really tired on no sleep. Maybe it's best that, you know, we just keep it balanced and we don't go too over the top. Not interested in doing a rage video or anything like that. I'm just being honest with my experience with the game. So we had these skins that I just felt didn't fit in the game at all. And I understand that modern games have skins that test the limits and, you know, push the boundaries, but seeing people wearing fashion hoodies, seeing executions being sold when the game is all about executions, seeing a flag that you see for 2 seconds being sold for 700 iron. I think these now cost coins at this point, but they used to cost about, say, like £5 to £10 to buy a singular flag. Just pointing out that I can go and buy an actual real life 6-foot flag for less money. Then we obviously had things like this, the Terminator crossover, where if you pre-ordered, you would get a character that had a different skill set in escape mode that you can still only get through paying money. Like, that's literally game-changing characters been locked behind money. And also, generally, I think the saddest thing about the Terminator Dark Fate crossover, if we're being honest, and if you are honest with yourself and you just put everything aside and think logically, the saddest thing about the Terminator Dark Fate crossover being in Gears of War is it was actually the best skin. And that's a shame, because it should not be in the franchise. Now, what you're seeing on screen here is the downed Terminator on your screen. He is here, downed. People were playing this game with this pay-to-win character, and there was very little you could do about it, to be honest, mixed with the flashbangs and all of the other melee lunge. There was a huge melee lunge in the game, and you can see that when the game launched and when the game started, the staggering thing about this is the actual screen that we were dealt. Now, people might look at Gears 5 now, and when the modern reviewers look at the game, and the modern IGN reviewers that don't give a fuck about the job, they don't give a fuck about you, they don't care about the quality of product that they're putting out, meaning their own review, they're just there to churn it out. It's journalism. I'm telling you, as a fan, this is an honest, proper review, that when the game launched, 2 characters were from Halo, 1 was from Terminator, and you had 8 characters. A couple from, like, at this point, Lanny, Mac, Kate, and Dell, and even Keegan, they're all like side characters, you know, to me. Like, you might say Kate's the main character. To me, it was a side character. The reason for this was I just didn't resonate with it in any meaningful capacity. But let me just tie my hair up. And I just didn't resonate with Kate in any meaningful capacity, to be honest. And it was a bloody frustrating experience. So we'll talk about that as we get onto story and all of that stuff, but I'm just showing you that generally the game itself really wasn't that fucking inspiring, and there was a complete lack of content, and it felt like all of the content that you had to get, you had to do through this horrendous Tour of Duty system. Now, bear in mind, guys, the Tour of Duty system I actually like. And I actually like the fact you get exclusive skins for putting the effort in to do these challenges. The issue was that the challenges themselves were pretty much only PvE. And I'm kind of fine with that. I know everyone freaked out about it, but it was more how long they were for such little rewards. I liked the concept of it. I liked the idea that you got free exclusive rewards that couldn't be purchased with money for doing challenges. I like that idea and I respect that. The issue is doing 50 hives, killing 3,000 people and escape, mastering 10 hives, mastering a hive 5 times, doing 150 acts of escape, and then escaping another 50 hives for a point the finger emoji is absolutely fucking horrendous. And I can't put it any more bluntly. You can't defend that. It's shit. It's shit. Complete shit, mate. Like, I'm telling you, the ideas that were in the game weren't that bad. They just must have had a bunch of yes men and women in the office that haven't got a spine, and they didn't stand up, or maybe they weren't allowed to stand up. Whatever the issue was at the coalition, the end product for me as a consumer was awful. And I'm not saying that because I dislike all of the aspects of the game, which we'll get into. I've already told them that I like the Tour of Duty, but there was so many issues with it. So many issues with it. You'll even see here that, you know, we were doing guides on how to farm medals, and I was watching guides and I was sharing guides, and it wasn't that bad. It was just how it was put into place. Now, the Tour of Duty at the beginning was bad, meaning that it wasn't that rewarding. You had to do your challenges, meaning if it ended up in PvE and you didn't want to play PvE, tough shit, you had to do it. This was all fixed. And in Operation 2 and 3, the Tour of Duty was in a fantastic place. And and I really, really rate the Tour of Duty. It gave away free content. It was exclusive. You had to put work in, but once you put the work in, you could run around with exclusive like DB Scientist Baird skins, all of these stuff. Like I started to do skin showcases, not because I wanted money off YouTube or something. I don't make money off YouTube, but because I wanted to showcase that, hey, I've worked for this, and this is what it looks like in game if you want to earn it. Now, the problem with this is, again, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but TC are often the stick people used to beat TC with is you listened, you didn't listen enough to the community. That's why the game's bad. When actually, the reason the game's bad is because, in a way, they listen to the community too much, which I will explain. But what ended up happening is later down the line, all of these exclusive items that we put our hard-earned time into farming for through this Tour of Duty were given away. And that really broke consumer trust. And I'm really not happy they did that. Nobody seems to be speaking on that. But when you farm 4 or 5 Tour of Duties fully and then they start giving away all of the stuff, it was bad. When you initially played the game, there was very little skins. You can see me there. What I was doing there was I was looking. I was getting very, very little scrap for playing the game. I was getting no scrap to unlock skins. I just had no skins. And coming from Gears 4, where I had absolutely thousands of skins, and I didn't have to pay for a single box because they fixed it, to go from that to this was like a big constriction. It was a big, let's constrict the player, let's make him feel choked out, so he can't get any content, so he has to visit our shop, and I despise that. You can see here I was reaching Diamond 1, I was going up the ranks, I was halfway through the campaign, I played 19 hours of multiplayer, 10 hours of campaign, it was going okay. Now, if we want to touch on the campaign, which I guess we can do just briefly, it's a really important part of the Gears franchise. So it sounds really weird for me to brush over it, but if I go into it into any great detail, this video might be 500 minutes long. Now, the truth is the campaign launched with a load of bugs. And I ended up playing this robot. And the reason I'm playing this robot is because we just finished playing Gears 4 and we agreed to play Gears 5 in co-op. When I checked the box, it told me that the game was 3-player co-op. Yet the 3-player co-op experience was me carrying around this fucking ammo bot that was an awful character. Now, one of the issues with this campaign experience was you don't get to see Kate's flashes and her flashbacks and all of this, right? So every time she's flashing forward and she's flashing in a red mind and she's doing all of this, you never got to see anything. I had to have my friend explain to me what was going on. On my screen, I was just getting nothing. And that's fucked. Now, when you play this on Insane, bear in mind, we're really good at Gears. I'm sorry, like, to blow my own trumpet, but we are good at Gears. Anybody that knows my channel is good at Gears. We couldn't advance on Insane because it was just fucked. So what I did, because the game was so shit, was I picked up my phone as I was playing Jack and I said to my friends, I cannot move whilst playing Jack or I will die, and then the game was reset. So I picked up my phone, I parked myself at the back of base, I called a takeaway, and I decided that my friends could finish the game whilst I finished my chocolate cake, my fudge cake, my I think I was having a Chinese at the time or something. And that's how I completed the campaign, hiding in a corner, because the game was never ever tested for 3-player co-op on Insane, and it never was changed, and it's fucked. Now, you might have had a different experience with the game and all of this, but when I played it, it was utterly fucking busted. And not just mentioning that, it was tragically boring. It was tragically boring, the campaign. It had nothing. It went from a band of brothers to Kate having a moan. Everything Kate does, sorry to go on this, everything Kate does exists because She was told to fucking do it. Marcus would say, go to this place, do this, do that, do that. And she just happened to be the focal point of the game because she was selected. This isn't about, oh, I don't want a woman to lead the game. It's nothing to do with that. The problem, we've had Anya, brilliant character. We've had... Let me just bring up the tweet, because if I don't bring up the tweet, you won't know what I'm on about. So I'll bring up the tweet, because this is a one-take review and we're never going back to this game. When I think of what happened and throughout all my experiences of the campaign, it was just left a really big kick in my teeth. And this is what we went from. We went from Marcus Phoenix, a group of slaughtering locust armies with my tight-knit group of war-torn generals of all shapes, sizes, colours, creeds and backgrounds, to Kate. I'd like a word with the manager, please, because in 2008, an employee made a joke on the app Twitter and it's making me feel uncomfortable. I did not resonate with the character in any capacity. She was boring. She wasn't funny. Everyone chirped on that she was a strong character. I didn't think she was a strong character. I think we've had better female characters in Gears before. She got shoehorned into this role of, is she going to become the queen? That could have been a cool storyline. And then all of a sudden the queen was back and it was just a bloody awful campaign. I'm sorry to say it. Anybody that rates that campaign, you've got no... you lack standards in terms of singing. In terms of open world, it did nothing. In terms of changing the dynamic of the Gears campaign, it did nothing. It still ended up being, hey, here's this cool like movie epic montage moment. Here's some cutscenes. Run along these rails, shoot these locusts, pop up, do a wave. It changed nothing. Now, escape mode, I actually thought was brilliant. I think escape mode was one of the best game modes they've done in a while. It had a problem with balancing at the higher ends, but I'll be honest, I think most people unfortunately didn't understand what escape was. It maybe wasn't explained well enough. And I actually enjoyed Horde, to be honest. Yes, there wasn't a lot of enemy variety. It wasn't spectacular. There was big problems for sure, such as being stuck to a certain class. Just to touch on that, that is kind of a big issue. You all had to be like this separate character. It's now changed like 2 years later, but they kind of fucked it where you had to be these certain characters and that character was like a class. So I had to play as Emil to use the bubble. So you ended up playing for hours and hours and hours as kind of a skin that you didn't want and a character you didn't want to play, and it just didn't go well. And then you had to level up all of the characters. So the big deal was you had to level up all of the characters, meaning you could spend hours and hours and hours and hours leveling a character to then need a different character to do an escape because it was like specifically needing poison. Then you'd have to level up all the character again. And the problem is the leveling process was very grindy and simple. So somebody that actually knew how to play Gears was just finding it very, very boring. It wasn't like, oh, you need to level the character and it got very tough and it was like this super complex leveling system. No, it was just like go and kill really noobish bots for like 100 million hours. Now, the problem with multiplayer was big. We could sit and we could talk about multiplayer forever, pretty much, if we wanted to go down that route. Let's keep it fairly brief. The game had major problems. Sometimes you would shoot when it was on their head and it wouldn't kill them. Sometimes you could be way off and the magnetism, adhesion, and friction would give you kills. We have issues with the maps being relatively poor. There was a whole host of like unbelievable fuckery. It's hard to describe how rage-inducing it was to see this person on the right completely be aiming away from me and miss me, for me to hit them point blank and not get kills. And this is all to do with the poor pings, the poor netcode, people hiding in corners. The reason they could hide in corners was because they've put in weapons that promote that. Because the gib range was so large, you could sneak up on somebody. Bullets magnetized and warped to you, so you really couldn't strafe. You can see these noobs are just hip firing and they're just locking onto you. The melee has an enormous lunge, which removed all close quarter combat skill. The game became shoot melee. And I think a few people really truly forget how fucking bad the game was at launch, in terms of not just quality and respect for a player's time and all of this stuff. It was just an actual miserable balancing experience. Huge chunk ranges, pushing people and blowing them up from a long way away. You can see me there locking on, and it just became wall bounce melee. There was no cooldowns. You know, he could shoot and miss me. It was laggy. Everyone was punching each other. It wasn't good. It really wasn't good. You just had fucking shit players, trash players meleeing you. And yeah, it just became like this game of absolutely blow someone up whilst also taking 95%. Sometimes you would blow them up, sometimes you wouldn't. With the amount of lag in the game, with the amount of compensation, aim assist, adhesion, some of the stuff that was going on, there was invisible grenades that were blowing up. People really forget just how fucking awful it was. You had been spawn rocket killed. If you sprinted, you couldn't shoot your shotgun because there was a massive delay. All of the rifles were incredibly overpowered. It was impossible to judge where somebody was, how to outplay somebody, because sometimes you would think they're in gib range and then they weren't. And then you tried to strafe and you'd get past them like this and they'd shoot where you were. The game had no skill. Sometimes you'd shoot and bullets would come out onto their body, but you would deal no damage. Like, as you can see here, this was another consistent one that you can see all of my bullets landed on him, yet, you know, it just wasn't really dealing any damage. You had all of these complete fucking noob weapons, like the Retro Lancer, hybrid, whatever you want to call it, the Claw, and it was a shit show beyond absolute belief. And anybody that is telling you otherwise, and anybody that is telling you that the game was remotely good, it really wasn't. And I'm being honest. If I thought it was good and multiplayer, I would be honest and admit it. I think escape mode was all right. Horde mode was relatively okay. Yes, it had big problems with characters, but at least the game mode worked functionality wise. You had people aiming over ledges, blowing you away. You had these weird maps that just didn't quite work. They were obviously designed with like camping in mind. The shotgun would down you with 2 shots from across the map. And the reason for this is because the Gears of War 4 used to have 2 tunings, competitive and core, and they had to find a balance between both. Because basically pro players, and this is confirmed, I'm not making this up, this is from, you know, people that actually know about the game and help develop the game. Pros complain that if there was 2 different tunings, they basically couldn't go into quick play and practice because it would be a different tuning to competitive. And so they settled on 2 tunings, which the lead developer at the time for multiplayer says he regrets. He wished he had just stuck to his guns and kept 2 tunings. And ultimately, it was just a shit shot. It was just a shit show. You would waste 3 rockets out of a Lancer GL, and it would transform into the most overpowered rifle of all time. Like, look how quick I'm dropping them. And You can just run in circles. It was just every piece of nuance from multiplayer had gone. You had these maps where you could set up these lancer pincers, and bear in mind, whilst all this is going on, you had stacks of players, meaning there was no limitation to a 1-man versus a 5-man. It was all about who could stack up the most, who could use the most lancers, who could basically lock down an area, and there was literally nothing you could do unless you also took out your rifle. Now, I'm not saying that the game should only be shotgun, but the balance of these playstyles was definitely skewed in the wrong way for me personally, and it was awful. I didn't enjoy the multiplayer, and the sad fact of reality is 2 years later, it's no better. Things have improved maybe slightly on a technical standpoint, such as servers kind of work, but everyone's still on the wrong pings because of, well, do we even need to go into all of the reasons? But the game in the multiplayer aspect hasn't really improved in any way. If you hated the game at launch or felt that it was a bit poor in quality, you're still going to feel that way. And if you loved the game blindly at the beginning, you're probably still going to love the game. Maps were incredibly dominant, stopping power, vertical maps, heavy, strong rifles. You could take over an entire game on your own, and that's how I felt at launch with the game. It was very, very frustrating, to say the least, and that's when my channel started to take some, what do you want to call it, like views. Had like 13k, 11k, 10k, and then I started to do some videos about just being open and honest and saying that the game felt completely like a soulless modern gaming experience. It felt like it was rushed out of the box. It felt unloved. It felt like, well, the Gears players will just put up with this because there's nothing else for them. We don't have a third-person cover-based shooter competition. There's nothing on PlayStation. There's nothing on PC. So as long as if we kind of put some Gears characters in there, we give them some maps and some lancers and some shotguns, these bunch of fucking slug life idiots will carry on playing the game. And in some regards, TC were right. Everyone did carry on playing the game, but it wasn't an enjoyable experience. And I then, instead of becoming a hater and becoming like, oh, this is the, you know, how do I word it? Rather than just doing rage after rage or video after video explaining my thoughts and feelings on the game, I decided to become more useful to the team. I thought, okay, I can see where there's potential in the game. So just to be clear, all of the DLC was free. That's a huge positive. No other Gears game has done that. You don't get split by DLC or maps, so TC introduced that. It was their first attempt at a live service, and to be honest, modern games these days need to be a live service to grow, so I understand why they did that. Escape mode was very innovative. The Tour of Duty, I enjoyed the premise of. It wasn't executed correctly, but it was eventually fixed, but then rebroken due to exclusivity being taken away. But for the most part, it was okay. And they did a lot right. I actually didn't mind the idea that because lancers were so strong and rifles were so strong, you would need a flashbang to stun the enemy and blind them to get up close. It would add a tactical element. Sadly, the testers or whoever signs off for all of this didn't quite get it right. And the balance was heavily fucked, to put it politely. So you would end up running around with like, there'd be like 5 or 6 characters, there'd be Terminators everywhere, a broken ranking system. Like, for example, it just was broken. People wouldn't rank up and all of this stuff. And when I say broken, I don't mean like, oh, skill-based matchmaking, boohoo. I mean it was broken. Like, people couldn't rank up. People were stuck. People were losing a load of score. People were getting promoted and demoted for random reasons. And it basically was so fucked that they took it out of the game like 6 months later, and then they tried to rework it. They kind of got it right. And then what ended up happening was, basically, because there was no players, because the game was so bad, they ended up taking out the parameters that would make an MMR skill-based ranking system work. So for those that aren't in the loop, basically the ranking system was fucked after so much moaning and like a full year to fix it. Like, I'm an actual full year, which is not acceptable. Like, can you imagine not having a ranking system in League of Legends for a full year? That's what this was. And then when it came out, within a few weeks, they abandoned it because a few people didn't like the fact the games took a long time to wait, because it was trying to find an accurate player base and an accurate skill, which is what you need. If they'd have focused on that and they'd have built it and they'd have done a, build it and they will come, build the ranking system and let the matchmaking times be long, but when you eventually get a game, it's a good close game. If they'd have done all that, maybe it grew in popularity. The issue is that they didn't, and they catered to all the idiots that don't understand how video games work, and due to that bloody thing, they ended up making it so you could play against 2 ranks above or below. And if you can stack up as a 5-man and you can play 2 ranks above or below, masters can play with platinums can play with blooming golds. Masters can bring anyone into the game as long as if you're in the party, so you could have bronze within Masters games. It was a big shit fest, and after 2 months they scrapped it at the end of its game's lifespan for a leaderboard system. Now, a leaderboard system is so outdated, no game does this anymore, but because the Gears of War community kind of have slug life mentality, and they were getting overhyped by this, like, oh, I'm going to grind the ladders, I'm going to grind the leaderboards, it's going to be so good. You know what ended up happening 2 months after that? Yep, they announced that the game had finished development and there'd be no more prizes given out for the people competing on the leaderboard. So they even abandoned that. So even at the end of the game's lifespan, they were still chopping and changing what the fuck they wanted. So you can understand that when I'm going to talk about like more decisions, the long and short of it is, after all these years, they still changed the ranking system fundamentally to be something different, and then within 2 months, like, changed it again and then stopped it again, and they just didn't know what they were doing. And I'm not being harsh. I'm just honestly telling you the truth. It might seem like this game is just really pissed off about the game, or he's taking it out. No, like, there was a lot of good stuff. I can sit here and say that the smoke grenades that were put in the game that left out a plumage of smoke and exploded when they instantly landed was a really cool feature. I like the fact that there was a skill-based ranking system in Gears. It was something new to grind. Unfortunately, they never fucking got it working, but the idea was cool. Some of the maps were good. Some of the maps were absolutely shocking. The person that invented Panahu Pahanu should just be locked up in a fucking mental institute, because anybody that playtested that and anybody that built that map as a keen multiplayer person needs checking out, because there's something not right there, bro. There's something not fucking right, mate. So let's jump about a little bit more and remind ourselves as we look at my channel and kind of where we've come to be. So what ended up happening was we decided, why is this going on now? Bloody hell, where's my videos at? There we go. We decided that, okay, we've reviewed the game, we've chatted about it all, let's not be salty, let's move on with our lives and see what we can do to help improve the game. So here we go, and I won't bore you with all of the videos, but let's just be honest. If I toot my own horn, there was probably, and probably isn't, anyone that has covered more Gears 5 in such a discussion-based way than me. I was there for 2 years. Before people were doing dev streams, I was still doing them. And I was asking questions and I was getting developer responses and it was all going well. There was a few things that irked me. So the long and short of it is I would take their developer stream. A developer stream is, let's have a look at this. For example, a developer stream would be, I hop on, I watch the developers talk about the game, I give my own opinion, my own takes, I bring up the question on screen, and to be fair, and not just sit there and be a little sad act that wants to just shit on developers trying to do their job, I would try to be the most pleasant, nice person of all time. I would ask a question in the most polite way. I would discuss their answer in the most polite way. And if you watch them, I was always really, really pleased that they would sit there, put themselves out there, and be super open and honest, because not many teams would do that. I will never criticize TC for doing this. No, I don't know many other dev teams that sit there each week and explain their decisions and why they were doing them and all of this. And to be honest, I think this was a fault. And I would say this to them. I would say to them, don't come out and do a video every single week if you haven't got a specific topic, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to start reading the chat above me. It's going to be a load of stupid questions from people that don't understand what Gears is about or what it needs to be, and you're going to end up starting to cater the game for them, and your vision is going to get lost. And to note, when one of the developers left, their words were, and I quote, "One of my biggest regrets was basically that I listened too much, and I should have, paraphrasing, I should have stuck to my own guns, because I'm good at my job and I know what was needed, and I should have stuck to my own guns." And one of the other developers really didn't like that response. So it kind of shows that there was this fight between this inner turmoil of wanting your own vision, trying to appease Twitter idiots, and it was all just going wrong. So yeah, I would do these every single time they were available, talking about misleading audio, because we haven't even mentioned that the audio in the game is completely fucked and still is completely fucked. There was all this stuff, right? And everyone really, really enjoyed my feedback. Like 500 likes, everyone was commenting, tons and tons and tons of comments. Like, I was generating so many views and discussion for Gears that nobody else was. And it's not to toot my own horn, it's to show what I did as a channel for the game. I didn't want to become a channel that just shit on the game. I wanted to help build it, right? So week after week after week, I would do things like, oh, they've just released free-for-all. I'm now going to play like a week, 2 weeks solid of free-for-all, really analyze what's good about it, what's bad about it, the tile-based map system, all of this stuff, right? That's what I would try and do. And it would all end up falling on kind of deaf ears. So we go through all of this, and again, there's thousands of hours here of work put in that can't just be surmised into a review. This is not an IGN review of somebody that's played 10 minutes. This is a proper review. And the game, due to all of this discussion and all of this shit that was going on, kind of began to turn, and it began to improve. And for Operation 2 and 3, the game was getting pretty good. We had a tour of duty that functioned correctly, meaning that you could play game modes that were coming out that were new and innovative, like Gridiron, as I'm playing here. It's like a capture the flag execution hybrid. You could earn your challenges whilst choosing to play PvE or PvP. The ranking system at this point was somewhat working to a degree where it wasn't great. It wasn't something to write home about, but it sort of worked and it was somewhat enjoyable. And at this point, Operation 3, we also had a point in our lives where, due to all of the discussion that I had with developers and other people, I ended up getting a really, really big long answer from one of the devs and having a chat, and the game began to become this, like, it was about enhancing the game's skill. The game became more, there was a lot more depth in combat. The lunge was removed. The servers were getting fixed. The shotgun improved a lot. Now, people are going to talk about the shotgun and say it was super inconsistent. At this point, what the shotgun was at this point was like the most consistent shotgun I've ever experienced. Now, the gib range and all of the animations might confuse you. And they might be like, oh, I thought he was there, but he wasn't. But this gun didn't sponge. It was consistent. It would down from a set range. You could blow people up. You could back A people. You could move well. And at this point, the game was becoming like legit, really good. Me and my friends were grinding the game. I knew a few players that would play a ton of hours. And I personally felt a great pride. I'm not saying I did anything monumental, but I did feel that I was quite proud that instead of getting mad and instead of just shitting on the game, I turned my passion into something positive, and I built a community that started to actually help the game. Now, obviously the developers did all of the hard work, but you can see here even the pings. There's a couple people on the wrong ping, but even the pings were like stabilizing. There was servers. It was good. It was a functional game. And this character here that you're seeing on screen was an exclusive character. So if anybody saw the exclusive character and the skins I'm wearing, they were like, oh shit, how did you get them? The skins were from, at this point, were gifted to me. This was a supporter pack for the game. Were gifted to me by the lead community manager, Dana. So I want you to think about this. We're beginning to turn the game around. Players are enjoying it a lot more. And the developers are even gifting me stuff. So there's no way I'm a problem at this point. Please bear that in mind, right? It's really, really going well. And there's still problems, don't get me wrong. But in the grand scheme of things, this is kind of what the game felt like it needed to be at launch. Like, you could hop on, play some gears. It wasn't the world's biggest game, wasn't the world's most fancy game, but it worked. It was all right, and it was enjoyable. Like, it gave you gears fix. There could have been a few more skins, a few more characters, but we were getting there, and it hadn't taken that long. It was such a bad launch, and they really did turn it round, and I want to make that obvious and fair that the devs didn't sit on their arse and let this game die. They really did a lot of effort to improve the game. A lot of effort. And I think I was constantly applauding them in my dev streams for just like their grit to not let the game die, because some people just let the game die, right? So it was going pretty well. I was even playing escape mode. I was releasing guides on how to complete escape with cool cinematic intros that I was making with the camera tools and the custom maps you could build inside of escape. And at this point, I was feeling like a Gears content creator. And everything was going pretty swimmingly. So what's the problem? Bad launch, the game starts to improve. What's the problem? Well, the problem came to be roughly, I don't know when the specifics were, but the game's just drastically slowed down in quality. The past year plus has been pretty bad. So it was kind of at this point where the game changed. The ranking system got changed, and I sat for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Everyone else just did like a quick video. I did a transcript available for the developers to read, and I wrote all my thoughts and feelings about how the new system would work. You would get gears points for leveling up. There was a new map. Obviously, I reviewed all the maps when they came out, and Reactor was a fantastic map. There were some really good maps that the developers made. And it was yeah, it was a lot of effort from everybody involved, but it was going well. And you can see I wrote statistics. I played 3 hours a day. I stacked 2% of the time, 8% with duos, 90% with solos. During my playtest, I reached Diamond 3. I was playing King of the Hill PC on EU. And I really did break down everything that was good, bad, and needed changing or fixing or just looking at. The developer actually liked this video so much, he messaged me and he penciled this video in for a meeting at the office. Then what ended up happening was like this big shift in direction. Gears Tactics came out. It felt like a few of the team got pulled onto Gears Tactics. They then, as we can see here, me discussing exclusivity with my old mic, that they started to sell Tour of Duty skins and they were bringing back old skins that were previously given out for rewards. And it was kind of feeling like we don't have any content, let's start giving out the stuff that we've previously made. They then brought back a load of old maps. Developers began to leave. The state of the balance got way, way, way worse. Tweak after tweak after tweak changed. It changed from this game that had a short range shotgun. People were dancing to a game that began to revert back to its launch state. And people like myself here were beginning to say, and you can see with the spike of views, that the reason the franchise was feeling dead is because of all of these little issues that were adding up and up and up and up and up. So, you know, we've got the Ice Kate skin there. That was cool. We'll get to the big hoorah at the end, which is where this is all ends up kind of amusing. But it was getting back to its bad self, really. Developers were just not really interested in changing anything to do with the game. What they ended up doing was they were churning out remakes of maps, content slowed up, balance changed to be slow, clunky, boring, noob friendly. And obviously, the same way I covered all of the positivity and all of the changes, I then was like, yeah, it's not going well. You know, this isn't great. There was splashes in there where, you know, this was December. There was splashes of brilliance. The Hivebuster campaign came out and the full thing was uploaded to me in 4K settings. It took like 6 days to upload on my internet. But I enjoyed the experience so much and I got connected to the characters. I thought the Hivebuster experience was so fantastic that the person that actually wrote the campaign liked the video and left me a really positive comment. So at this point, I felt really connected to the community. I felt like, gee, I put a ton of effort in. I was rewarded with a community that enjoyed my takes. The game was improving. And then, yeah, then it switched. It felt like what happened was developer after developer left, playtester after playtester left. We got a new lead. We got new community managers. Everything just changed with like in the space of a few months. Dana left, the lead communication, the person that quote said I made his job easier. The person that gifted me supporter packs for the games. And it all just started to go downhill. All downhill. And because it was going downhill, I began to explain that one of the reasons the game is so poor is because the developers keep listening to the wrong side of the argument. And they've been doing this for many, many years, and maybe they don't realize it because they've not been a bloody nerd like me for all these years, but that's why. And I called out that some of the old forum moderators were really hindering discussion. Some of the community managers were really blocking certain pieces of discussion, and we made a fateful error, apparently, because there was no content in the game for so very, very long at this point. The game had been dried out now. All the good work had been undone and everybody was leaving. And you know what happened? This is what happened. Right here. I decided to make the following tweet. I decided to say the following. A new developer had taken over the franchise and nothing had been said for months and months and months and months and months. And the game was dying. It was on its arse. All of the good work had been undone. All of the balance had gone to shit. It was dreadful. The community needed cheering up. I needed cheering up. So I went looking for some kind of news, information, a scrap of something that could explain why everybody's leaving the studio and what's going on. So the official Gears of War Twitter account gave us a account. Hey, welcome so-and-so. This is a brand new dev. Nothing. No news. No like. No tweets. No nothing. Now, developers well within their rights to not say anything publicly. But with the entire game going to shit, I thought they might have said something like, hey, I'm really excited for my journey. Nah, nothing. But one day, there was some activity on their account, and they'd liked this picture. Now, I made the fateful error that when you flick through Twitter, you don't read everything all the time, and this was the picture that was liked. And I said, breaking news, there's been activity on the new Gears of War developers account. I'm here to report live from Twitter that we have movement. Now, clearly, this is me pretending to be a journalist, which is meant to be comedic because there's been no news. And I said, oh, there's some content. Is this going to be the new Marcus skin? Now, Marcus is a human being who is in the Gears of War franchise. So to see this pink-haired skunk and suggest that it could be Marcus and also be a Horde boss, which is like a locusty animal or whatever they choose to be the boss of the event. It's kind of funny because it's never going to happen, right? Marcus would never transform into a big skunk and be a Horde boss. But because I was so bloody bored about content, I was just kind of making a joke that I wonder what's going to be in the game next because we've all got no idea. Now, unfortunately, this image was of somebody that worked, well, I don't really know actually, but basically this person had come out. They were, I don't want to get this wrong, so I won't say it, but basically they had, I believe the technical term is transitioned from human to skunk. And I had accidentally placed my foot in it by retweeting it on my account. Unfortunately, somebody that clearly worked at the coalition and didn't like the fact that my channel was quite prominent and I'd been covering the game for such a long time in quite a fair but critical way, saw this as an opportunity to ban me from ever playing the game, from ever discussing the game, from ever streaming the game, and never actually telling me this. Yes, I know. Sounds a bit conspiracy theory, doesn't it? But it's true. And one day, because I'd stopped playing the game because it wasn't very fun, I decided to sign in. And I signed in, and that's when, as I'll jump full screen, I signed in, and I said, whoa, I signed in to play Gears today, guys, for you on stream, but it says I'm banned. Why is this? I don't know. Within, and I am not exaggerating here, there is video evidence of this, this incredible news within 3 singular minutes of me tweeting this. Now, bear in mind, I could have signed in to play the game at any point during this period and found out I was suspended. But within all of this time that had passed, the second I asked, why the hell am I banned? And I didn't tag anybody because I didn't think it was an issue. I thought it was like a bug, or maybe the servers were down because the servers are always down. The official Gears of War account tweeted, just a reminder, folks, anybody that is like a harassing, sexually assaulting, bigoted fucking piece of shit arsehole will never be tolerated in our game. Fuck them, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's the way it came across. And then I got sent that and I was like, I've just tweeted that I've been banned. And then they've just subtweeted me. Now, what happened? Now, I'll try to control my emotions. What happened was I received 6 months of incredible abuse. Everyone in the Gears community turned on me. And I was very, very fucking down, dark, depressed, suicidal, death threats, people messaging my family. I had a lawyer involved. Like, it was serious. And to this day, I've never been told why I was suspended. We have to guess it was to do with that joke, but that could not be it. We don't know. Maybe somebody at the coalition just doesn't fucking like me. Who knows? But all of that effort and all of that work to build a community and to help the game in a fair and positive manner was squashed. And not just squashed, it ended my ability to really stream, because obviously if you're banned on a game and you stream yourselves playing on another account, you're technically ban evading, and that is a Twitch permaban. So I can't really stream. That killed a small but considerate piece of income for someone like myself trying to survive. It basically kind of killed off my channel. And emotionally, it hurt. Really hurt. Not going to pretend to be a big man and pretend like, oh, it didn't faze me. No, it really upset me. It was awful. Having everyone that you've built towards and done hundreds of hours of videos to just turn on you. Yeah, it fucking sucked, man. It absolutely sucked. Like, it still fucking hurts, man. So, we come to this. I haven't been allowed to play the game for 7 months. All of the developers unfollowed me. No one's ever communicated with me. The few people that I think it was, meaning the reason I think somebody might not have liked me, those people have since either been fired or left. And I tried to play other games. I tried to explain what was going on with the game, but it's very difficult to maintain a discussion channel and a critique channel and a help the game channel when you can't play. So unfortunately all of that stopped, and during that time we've had quite a few trailer drops. All of the trailers follow the same pattern. They are generic movie voice. In fact, I'll do the trailer right now. Introducing Panahu with a locust doing an execution, and in comes new generic character with over 50 like it's just like generic movie voice guy comes in, you know, slay the enemies in the new, and it's like some shit music kicks in. They release a map from Gears of War 4, a skin, couple shills get mad excited about it because it's something to shill over on YouTube and, you know, keep TC happy. And that's the game. Just spiraled into shit. I can't play the game. And now it's ended. Development has stopped. Yeah. What more can I say? What more can I say? Disappointing. Disappointing, mate. It had its moments. It wasn't all doom and gloom. There's quite a lot of positives to take from Gears 5, and as always, as the optimist, there's a lot of good stuff in Gears 5, and if they took that good stuff and they launched it in a correct manner and they did all this good stuff, Gears 6 will be brilliant. Unfortunately, I've got zero faith. Unfortunately, I don't even think I'll be allowed to even play the game because I'll probably be banned on site. So, the super passionate Gears of War fan that always tried his best, that had developers tell him I made their job easier, that had developers buy me the game, buy me skins, you know, support me emotionally and content-wise in DMs, have meetings about my content, watch my content. Even when suspended 7 months later, when I covered an issue or a discussion about a current TC member, 7 days later they were fired or left. Now, it could be a massive coincidence. Maybe it is. But I would still say some TC people definitely watch my work after I was suspended. I think you would be right in saying that. I even had one watch my stream once, but he forgot to change his username in Twitch so I could see him lurking in my channel, which is a bit fucking odd. And that's it, man. The game's finished. It's been a roller coaster emotionally. I don't know where I'll be. I wish I was creating content for the game. I wish I was having a blast with you folks that have supported me this whole time. I wish you'd tune into my other content, but I understand you want to hear my views on Gears and you're not interested in Halo or Alien Isolation montages or me trying on shoes or whatever, like, but gotta see it from my point. Like, I gotta try, man, because they don't want me there. So I gotta try and make something work. Whether it's playing Teamfight Tactics to one viewer on Twitch for a month, which I've been doing. I've got to try something, man. But in terms of Gears 5, it's fucking dead, mate. It's dead. Like, it's actually dead, bro. Like, the ranking system don't work. The leaderboards are pointless. The pings are pointless. The game's gone back in quality. And they're probably working on a different project entirely. Maybe, like, in the background they're working on it. But do I have any hopes for Gears 6? Maybe. That's all you can say in it. Maybe. Yeah, so it's not just me either, man. All the other content creators have left. They're playing like Splitgate or doing other stuff. Esports, all the esports players have left. Like, yeah. It's pretty, I don't know what to say really, mate. It's been just like a physically and emotional draining fucking 2 years, mate. Mixed with COVID, mixed with the fact I can't eat, mixed with all this other shit going on in my life. I didn't need that fucking 6 months of abuse, man. I didn't need my channel being killed off. I didn't need my stream or me to be labeled as something I'm not, you know? They also, even though I did forum posts and I worked on the forums, man, I had like 1,000 likes on the forums. Like each time I posted on the forum, it was like a critical, well-worked piece. And they kicked me off the forum and labeled my account that I consistently harassed members of the TC community, like on the forum, which literally is false. Like you can look up my profile and read all of the posts I've ever done, and there was never any of that. Like I want to say thanks to like everyone that's been supporting me, and like I just don't think people understand like what a fucking journey it's been, man. Like it's been such long, like 2+ years of covering all of this stuff for it to end in the way it did. And it's like, if you want a Gears 5 review, this is it, mate.